Okay, again. Good evening, everyone, for the Plan Commission meeting for June 20, 2023. We call to the order of this meeting, and the first item in the agenda is the announcement of a new Plan Commissioner, Carol Poole. Thank you, Carol. Carol, would you want to say something about you to the rest of the commissioners?
Sure. I served on the Plan Commission in the city of Fitchburg for 8 years. I think 6 of those years as chair of the Plan Commission, so I have a lot of experience working with the city, working with all the city documents and plans, so I'm happy to be back, and I look forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Welcome. So next on the agenda we have, we need a motion to approve the minutes.
I move approval of the minutes from April 18, 2023.
I'll second.
Any comments?
Or May 16th.
May 16th.
Yeah, wrong date.
Which day is? Yeah? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say?
I said April. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong agenda. I move the approval of the minutes from May 16th.
Okay.
I'll second again.
Any question, comment? All those in favor of the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So next we move to the public appearances for non-agenda items. Do we have anyone here for non-agenda item? Scott, do we have it? No? Okay. So next we move to the agenda review. Any comment for the agenda review? Anyone want to make a comment, change? No? Okay. So next we move to the agenda items. So the first thing that we have here is a public hearing. So we are gonna, this is how the process will work. We are gonna open the public hearing. First, we are gonna ask the applicant for this if they want to make some comments. Then we open to the public hearing. Staff, and then we are gonna ask people to if there is any person who wants to comment on this, we ask them to come to the microphone. You're going to have 3 minutes to talk. Gabriela is going to be taking control of the time. So when she says 3 minutes, that's it. Because we have, I think, a lot of people. So, and then we are going to have a review from the staff. And then the Plan Commissioner will have a discussion. And we are going to go through the process to approve or deny this ordinance, okay? So do I need so first we go to the public hearing. So we open the public hearing. So if the applicant want to come to speak. The public hearing and consideration of ordinance 2023-0-10 and Plan Commission Resolution PCR-0123 is adopting a recommendation the Spring 2023 amendment to the Comprehensive Plan, amending the MAP 4.3 Future Land Use Plan map for property associated with 2735 Rimroad Road, specifically from the low-density residential to high-density residential. Okay, so we open the public hearing.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Aisha, and I'm the developer for 2735 Rimrock Road. We'll be calling these residences olive tree residences. The proposed plan, which we have up front for review, I feel nicely incorporates into the rest of the neighborhood. We're proposing 24 owner-occupied workforce housing units, more affordable housing for the area to cover workforce housing for employees like the police staff, fire staff, school, anybody in that range. And we're also proposing a daycare center for that area, which is a need that was identified as part of our meetings with the city and does not exist today in the nearby neighboring facilities. We're happy to answer any questions about the development. We're looking at 2 stories that was kept in mind with the neighborhood sentiment, owner-occupied and townhome-style housing, keeping in mind the Southdale development plan. And moving to low density because we're looking at about 24 to keep the costs down with fire codes. So each of the units share walls and all of those restrictions that were discussed with the Planning Commission and Public Works. That brought us down to this number of 24, which puts us into medium to high density. So we're looking for an amendment for that. And we have representation from the construction crew that's helping us with this project as well. So we have Vince here from
I'm Vince Laufenberg with McKee Associates, and again, just assisting in development and design and construction.
Okay, so.
Sound is terrible. You can't hear what they're saying for the most part.
Oh.
Scott, can you fix that? Thank you.
Is this any better? Okay, perfect. The plan is the same that we reviewed in the neighborhood meeting, and I see some of our neighbors here. So nothing has been changed from the original plan that was presented in our main neighborhood meeting.
Okay, thank you. So next I'm gonna be calling the people. So some people want to speak. So I will ask you to approach the microphone. Okay. So then we can ask you more questions if the plan commissioner have more questions for you after. Yeah. So the next person I will call is Luke here. Oh, higher. Yeah. He wants to speak in support of this matter. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Yeah, Luke Heyer, I was born and raised on Tower Hill over there. I own the property directly to the north of it, 1 acre of land at 2725 Rimrock Road. And my support is kind of a conditional support under the understanding that proper easements would be put into this plan for traffic and utilities to the 3 acres to the north. I don't know if you have a map of that area, but if this is the first I've seen of what they've had proposed. But the way it looks, from what I understand, the county does not want more traffic going directly onto Rimrock. So if they put something like this in my acres, and Nick, who's here and will be talking later too, his 2 acres will become kind of locked into place and will never be fully utilized to their full potential.
Do we have a map? Okay.
So the,
Yes, so I'm 2725. Right there, yeah. And you can see everything around it is developed. And if this development goes into the south, if we want to develop our 3 acres, there'd be really no place for us to get utilities or traffic, because you wouldn't want all that traffic dumping out onto Rimrock Road. You can see 2701, or is that 20?
I don't see.
this one is
Yep,
27.
2701, and 2725. You know, that'd be 3 acres of land that would be completely underutilized and not able to be developed to its full potential down the road if it gets cut off on that south side. I guess that's my primary concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So next is Nicola there. He wished to speak in support and also in opposition. I don't know. So.
Thank you very much. Yeah, no, so I own the property 2701 and then the adjoining acreage. So it totals out to just about 2 acres. And my concern is that with the development going to the south of us, I think there should be some greater consideration to how the rest of the block can be utilized because, as it was said earlier, across the street is all commercial, it's all potential development area. As the south becomes more developed in this acreage that they're proposing, now we have just these small residential homes. And it is my understanding that we've got some issues with commercial traffic if this were to be change, if the zoning was to be changed for our properties in addition to, I think that might actually be a better option, is to change the zoning for the total of the block, or at least for our 3 total, or Luke and myself's other 3 acres to be included in this rezoning, because then there might be a better future development plan that is encompassing the entire parcel. Additionally, just some of the utilities, traffic, and other considerations should be, looked at in a little more greater detail. So I conditionally approve it, but I think that there should be more consideration to the adjoining properties. Thank you very much.
Carol, do you have a
Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
What is the current zoning of the land that you own?
Rural.
So it's ag, or is it
Yeah.
rural residential?
Because I have 2 acres, it's considered rural right now.
Okay.
Actually, under our zoning ordinance, you're zoned low-density residential.
So that's changed since,
I don't know, but that's what it's zoned right now.
Okay.
I'll have to look into that.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions?
Nope, that's it.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Sally Haight? Haight, okay. She wished to speak in opposition to the above matter. She's concerned about the I cannot read your handwriting. The change from low to high density.
I'm Sally Haft. I live at 95 Maloney Drive, Fitchburg. I've lived there for 45 years. Lots of changes have happened around there. There have been promises that people said and promises that were, oh yeah, everything's going to be fine. And then everybody left. Well, lots of things happened. It was not good. And trying to get Fitchburg to do something was kind of difficult, even after they became a city, which they weren't when we lived there. We're concerned about the low density, that our area is low density. Across the road was low density. All of that area was low density. I went to a lot of Southdale meetings, lots of times. We had, oh yeah, your houses over there is low density. It's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be a problem. It's going to stay low density, even though, because there's people on Maloney and Clausen, that all is low density. And our places on the other side of the road are low density. And this high density is going to be major change. And only one group has to get the okay for high density, and there goes the rest of the place. People could change their ideas, and we're stuck with the high density. Now, if he's saying, you can't go on Rimrock, where are they going to go? They're going to go on Maloney Drive. What are you going to do with Maloney Drive? It's just used to be a dead-end street. Just concerned about that. And the amount of traffic, the traffic coming out of Indian Springs goes down the street very quickly, very fast. They turn the corner, and it's fast down the road. More traffic is going to come out of there. It's not going to be nice. And there's no way of stopping everybody from slowing down. The police never come around there. Garbage is never picked up. We have to call, get the brush done. The garbage is delayed getting picked up. So, things that we have to call all the time. At least I do. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Was there any community involvement? Did anybody come up to you during this whole process to get your opinion or anything, or to anybody in the neighborhood?
The group, I did talk to Diane a couple times, but that was just a little bit, just one day, and we met the family out on the street, and they said, this is what we're thinking about. Well, and then we met at that
That's 3
meeting,
minutes.
the neighborhood meeting that they had. That's been it.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. 3 minutes. Okay, thank you, Sally. So next, Diane Pease. She want to speak in opposition.
Okay. I live right across from Sally and and her husband, and I have lived there the same amount of time they have. unfortunately, when the city of Madison built above us on the hills, it was farmland when we moved in. When they built up there, they allowed the developer to develop the land without putting in any storm sewers. So the town of Madison was good enough to us so that it didn't flood the area. They put in a whole ditch, paved it, put a culvert under my driveway, put in another paved ditch, and the land that is next to me, and I live right next to what's the development, the land that's there had a natural drainage down there, and that worked very nicely. It kept us from being drained. I have two concerns about the development. First of all, 25 feet from the fence line, giving those people in each of those townhouses and their kids 25 feet to play in, that's a very small area for children and for people to enjoy their outdoors. And I don't know, I'd like to know how wide, what the size of the units is, but that concerns me. The other big concern I have is that if they put in what they've talked about and they told us about in the meetings, sidewalk and curb and gutter, I'm going to end up having my water drainage blocked because it's going to cut off what was the natural drainage. And I'm sorry, I don't care to be flooded nor to have the street flooded because it would flood my neighbors too, with all of the water that comes down from the city of Madison. So we need to come up with something so that there is sewage, there is drainage there. Secondly, I'd like to have some privacy, at least 25 feet from my back lot line, means I'm going to have to put up a fence. I already have a fence there, but I'm going to have to put up a board fence so that there's a little bit of protection from all of the people's gathering and all of the neighbors there. I try to be a good neighbor, but I don't want people, right on top of me, and I don't think that's fair to them either. So the fence,
It's 3 minutes.
I am concerned about, and I would like to, like I say, know how big that the units are.
Thank you, Diane. Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So next one is Harvey Mather. Okay, Matthew or Mather. Okay. He wishes to speak in opposition.
So, like Diane and Sally, I've watched this lot for 45 years, and it's been a real pleasure to have it be where it is. So, that being said, I'm not against development, but all the way through these 45 years, I've tried to keep tabs on what was being planned, attending meetings, and it has always been my understanding that we would try and keep high density on the other side, the west side of Rimrock Road, and that the neighborhood that we live in, which is all single-family homes, would be left at somewhat of a low density. The plan that I saw here at the neighborhood meeting regarding this development is certainly more than I would have liked, but certainly a lot less than about 5 or more years ago. A developer wanted to put in like an 80-unit apartment on that lot, and the town of Madison wisely kept that from happening with the support of the fire department at the time and everything, because to shoehorn 80 units into this 2.5 acres would have been just ridiculous. So in the neighborhood talks that I've had since the meeting, I think the main reason that the present occupants of the neighborhood would support this is it's the hope that it would be the lesser of many evils. Should this not go through, and now that you're jumping from a low density, bypassing the medium density, going to a high density, would allow whatever took place to go to the extreme of possibly another 80-unit development. So I'm concerned about that, the kind of the duplicity of the way the process works. And the main item that I think I would say is that Rimrock Road has done nothing in the 45 years but become a major thoroughfare. And to get out of Maloney Drive onto Rimrock Road during anything but the dead of night is got to be a real catastrophe. And the people that have gone into Indian Springs, which is the town of Madison, originally many exits were supposed to feed that whole Indian Springs development. Well, the politics at the time played out, and it was all funneled down to just, I think there's like 3 major exits to that whole 300 home development. Well, I just hope you use your heads, because the intersection of Rimrock Road and Maloney Drive is not prepared to handle additional traffic.
Okay, thank you. Next is Dan Kirkman, something like that. Yes, sir. You wish to speak in opposition of this.
Thank you. My name is Dan Kirkman, and I'm from Indian Springs neighborhood, so I'm in the city of Madison. And I am thankful that I got a notification of this, because I've lived in the neighborhood with my wife for 31 years, and so we know the history, Rimrock Road. I was involved heavily when they had the upgrade from a 2-lane to a 2 to a they wanted to go 4-lane, then they wanted to go, we ended up with a turning lane and a thing. But the reason I oppose this is the density of this. Right now, unless they upgrade Rimrock and a lot of the other services, the extra people, I go down Maloney, a lot of people do, and I agree with the other people that the road is going to struggle with the extra people. Right now, everything on the other side of Rimrock is zone high density. Jump ahead 10 years, and you got all these apartments in there, so how are all these people going to go? And I agree with the other gentleman here is, okay, this one's density, now the other 3 would like density, and pretty soon, over a period of 20 years, this whole corridor will change to high density. And then the bottom line, the utilities won't be able to handle that. So, stormwater, sewer, water, all of that stuff is going to be struggling due to the step process of this. To me, it should be low density and low, or I would go with medium density. But I have enough history in the neighborhood to know what it is. People on Rimrock, they fly around there. The stoplights on McCoy has helped, but they come around by Andenberg, and they come zipping up there. I guarantee you probably 70 to 80% of the vehicles either way in front of Maloney are nowhere near the speed limit. So you add some more people in here, and we're going to start to have accident issues. So I do oppose the change to high density. I like the low density for the simple reason of the neighborhood feel. And they already got the entire west side for high density as it is. Now you got these other sections. So I hope you look in the long term of this, not what's available right now. I'm looking 20 years. I can reflect the last 30 years of all the changes, but I can see that this could be the opening step of a number of steps that we're going to pay for dearly 20 years from now when they have to upgrade and change Rimrock Road.
Thank you, sir. Next is Tyrone Buckingham. He wished to speak in opposition.
I live on Maloney Drive as well as Sally and Harvey and Diane. My concern is making it high density, like Harvey was saying. If it falls through, if they don't get what they want and somebody else buys them out, now they can put in a bigger unit, right? And now we're going to be stuck with something we've been fighting against for years. Traffic as well. Moreland and Rimrock, there's accidents in that intersection constantly. And if you do that, if you allow this building up down Rimrock, you're going to have more accidents going down and down and down. And like he was saying, on that curve, people come around that curve flying. It's a bad idea. And the water as well. If we get a lot of rain, where's that water going to go? The gutters down there already can't handle that stuff. In the spring, we get floods down there on Rimrock going towards Moreland, from Maloney to Moreland. So where's the water going to go? And same thing with electricity, utilities, all that stuff the grid's going to be pushed. So this is why I'm not for it, because I'm worried about it becoming something that it's being promised today it's going to be, that it's not going to be tomorrow. So I hope you guys take that into consideration, because I know you guys wouldn't like something like this happening in your neighborhood. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next is David Bambrough. He wished to speak in opposition.
I'm opposed to this. I live on Rimrock Road, and the traffic's bad there already, and you're going to be adding to the traffic. And like they were saying about the runoff, well, if you fill that field up with condominiums, well, that's only going to make it worse, because there's not going to be any place for that water to go. And the other thing I'm really concerned about is if you approve this, then they can turn around and sell it to someone else. Well, that's going to stay with it. Once it's approved to high density, it stays high density. If I'm correct on that, Zach?
Sorry, say that again.
Once it gets approved as high density, it stays high density?
If it passes through council, that is correct.
If they...
But we are going to explain, Diana is going to explain what is going to happen, okay?
Well, anyway, I don't want to see no 90-unit apartment building built there or anything like that at all. And I just want you to think about it. How would you feel if it was next to your house? Think about that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So next is Christopher Sauer. He wished to speak in opposition.
Good evening. I live on Lone Eagle Drive, just off of Maloney. I'll try and keep this simple. This is a single dwelling neighborhood. That's when I bought my house 6 years ago, that's what I saw. That's what these other people that are opposed to it saw when they bought it 45 years ago. They've invested their life in this neighborhood. They aren't ready to move. They aren't 21 years old and can pack up and leave. They're going to be stuck with this unless you don't approve it. So I think most of the people, or nearly all the people that are opposed to this, don't have any financial gain in it. I think the people that are calling for this have financial gain. You have plenty of room south on MM where you can develop your comprehensive plan. You don't have to do it in a single dwelling neighborhood. It's always going to be a single dwelling neighborhood. The only difference is the people will be angry there. I just think it's a shame that you have to put these people through it that have been there all their life. And now they're having to think about something like this coming in.
Thank you, sir. Next is Tina Bambrook. She wishes only to register only to in opposition. I would rather have this land to be used for single-family housing. If this passes, I don't want anything bigger than what it was proposed. So next is Ted Case, or Regis, I don't know, cannot understand the handwriting. He wish it's only for to register only in opposition. Next we have Jay Allen. He wished to speak, I don't know, in favor, in opposition. It's not here. Oh, we have another. Huh? Yeah, no.
Hi, I'm Jay Allen. I'm the City Council representative for this neighborhood. My personal view is that this isn't a bad use for this piece of land. However, I think the process that has gone through has not been good. One of you asked earlier, I was listening on my way in, one of you asked earlier if there had been a neighborhood meeting, and there was one neighborhood meeting at the coffee house where the neighborhood was pretty much unanimously opposed to this project. And I was approached by the developer to ask if I would help sponsor a plan commission resolution to amend the comprehensive plan. And I said that I wanted to see some neighborhood buy-in before we go down that route. Well, as you've heard so far tonight, you don't have any neighborhood buy-in. I think there are probably ways to work with the neighborhood to get some other use on this land. It's about 2.5 acres or so, so they could subdivide it into single-family lots and build I think probably 10 or 12 houses there under the current zoning. That probably is not ideal for this particular lot. And having a child care facility in the neighborhood would definitely be a good thing because of the nearby employment centers with the stuff that's up on not Badger Road. Oh, it is Badger Road. But I think after that neighborhood meeting, I told the developers that they needed to have another neighborhood meeting and try to work some of this stuff out. And apparently that was ignored, and the mayor decided to sponsor this comprehensive plan amendment anyway. So I don't know that it's the wrong choice. I don't know that it's a bad plan. But I do know that they haven't done the work with the neighborhood that we expect people to do within developed neighborhoods to try to get some buy-in from people so that we aren't pissing everybody off. So I would ask you to, at the very least, table this until there, and I know there's a time frame on comp plan amendments, so maybe you can't do that. Maybe the only option right now is to vote this down and have them come back at the next window when after some time has passed and we're able to work with the neighborhood a little bit and come up with a better answer. But right now, as this is being proposed, with the little amount of work in the neighborhood that's been done, this is the wrong answer. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have online is Steve Cloyd. Steve, are you ready? We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great. Okay. My name is Steve Cloyd. I and my brother George live at 2840 Clawson Street, 1 block from Rimrock Road. We have lived here at this address for nearly 32 years and have seen many property changes near us. We're deeply gratified by all the support that we've had for. If you've got to change it, make it low density. We're worried that the piece of land under consideration is apparently being proposed for high density. As long-term residents of this immediate area, we believe considering this parcel of land for high density is inappropriate, inadvisable, and potentially dangerous. In saying this, we particularly refer to the high volume of traffic on Rimrock Road and Clawson Street every day. This parcel is the last nearby available for providing any kind of natural sound barrier from traffic noise and vehicle emissions. We're particularly worried that this development will add to the neighborhood property tax levy. Our own property experienced a large bump in taxes this year. Given that we are both senior citizens on fixed incomes, this is a source of considerable stress. We ask members of the commission to be sensitive to these impacts and suggestions. To summarize, it's very gratifying to hear so many neighbors of ours saying that they oppose the high density business. Low density might work, but we certainly do not want high density. There's so much traffic out here right now. You come every morning.
Clawson Street is an alley.
Clawson Street is basically an alley, and it'll just be turned into more. There'll be more traffic on our street, which is just off of Rimrock Road. The traffic that goes down the Rimrock Road every morning and every afternoon is crazy. So many speeders, and we just want to say thank you to all the people that are in opposition to this plan for high density, because that's not going to work. It's not fair to people who have lived here for a long time, that own single family homes. We just ask that our voices be heard, and someone pay attention to us, please. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. So anyone else want to speak in this matter? No? Okay. So I think Steve was the last one. So next, we move to the staff memo.
Yep.
We close the public hearing. Thank you, Carol. And next, we move to the staff memo.
Okay. I am just going to briefly make some comments to provide some context. So first of all, the city's comprehensive plan states that amendments to the plan will be processed no more frequently than twice per year. So that's what's happening here. This is our first process to potentially modify the comprehensive plan. This isn't a change of zoning. This could be changing the future land use. So this Plan Commission resolution and accompanying council ordinance would adopt the amendment to the comprehensive plan. These lands are also governed by the Southdale Neighborhood Plan. The two parcels were annexed into the city of Fitchburg through the town of Madison attachment in October of last year. This minor comprehensive plan amendment proposes that the two parcels located at the corner of Rimrock and Maloney Drive would be reassigned a future land use designation from low-density residential to high-density residential. This proposal anticipates a future proposal for 24 residential units with potentially a small-scale daycare. The need for this change to go from low-density designation to a high-density designation is reflected in our comp plan, which states that between 5 and 9 dwelling units per acre, that's medium density. The proposed development that's before the Plan Commission tonight proposes just over 10 dwelling units per acre, so that's why it's being pushed into high-density residential. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that. So I mentioned that what's being considered here is a change to the comp plan. These lots are also governed by the Southdale Neighborhood Plan. Some of you might have been involved in that planning process. And the Southdale Neighborhood Plan assigns a land use designation for these two parcels as urban residential district. And I think it might be helpful if I just go grab that, Scott. So what I'm going to show here is a portion of the Southdale Neighborhood Plan. And these parcels, I can bring this down a little bit, are in this location on the Southdale Neighborhood Plan. And what this designation calls for is living options which include low and medium high-rise condos, townhomes, and small single-family homes. Also, it talks about mixed use, live-work buildings, particularly at a corner, such as Maloney and Rimrock. So while the proposal before Plan Commission does go from low density to high density residential, any future land development here will still have to remain consistent with this Southdale Neighborhood Plan. So I just wanted to point out that those requirements here. Both the comprehensive plan and the Southdale Neighborhood Plan cite the need for affordable housing, infill, diversity of housing types. The proposal here with this urban residential and high density residential could allow for each of these recommendations to be filled. The proposal provides for slightly more dense housing than with the currently proposed low-density compact urban development that would add a variety of housing stock to the area. Finally, just a couple other points that staff wishes to address. Staff notes that the plan in Plan Commission's packet does not currently comply with the land division ordinance if those townhomes would be built on individual lots. And what I mean by that, our land division ordinance requires individual lots to front on or abut a public street. So the plan that's shown in your packet could move into condominium development or will still continue to work with the developer as we move through the process. So this is just kind of the first stage of considering a change to the future land use. Staff does recommend that Plan Commission would take two actions. The Plan Commission should take action on the Plan Commission resolution. For all comprehensive plan amendments, there's a separate Plan Commission resolution, and then also take action on a recommendation to council regarding ordinance 2023-010. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
With the motion so we can start the discussion.
We did that at the last two meetings, and it feels like it does not work here. Do we really want to, especially with two of these on the table? Like, are we going to try and tackle both, obviously, because the discussion's germane to both? Mm-hmm. Or are we going to take one, have a whole discussion, vote on it, propose a second one? I mean, it's just...
I agree with Stephen. It makes no sense to make a motion. We should discuss first.
But if nobody makes a motion, we just drop it,
Yeah, we cannot discuss.
In the past,
I know you're going by Robert's Rules of Orders. I'm just saying for the last 4 years, that's not how a Plan Commission has done it. And watching last month and participating in the month before that, it's a lot uglier than if we just have a discussion and then someone proposes based on how the discussion kind of goes. That's my recommendation.
I think historically it's been done that way, and I think Plan Commission is the only official body that does operate that way, but we did find it was more efficient to have questions with staff and discussions before there was a motion presented and before we took a second.
Okay.
Yeah, we just found it worked better.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine with me. Okay. So we open the discussion for the Plan Commission.
I'm a little confused, Normal. But is the Southdale requirements stricter than so, and will they expire at some time? Are these, if this were to proceed, 5 years later, Southdale agreement is void or whatever, or gone, and somebody could put in a 1,000-unit building?
No, council has adopted the Southdale Neighborhood Plan as a part of our overall planning body. So unless there's a change to the Southdale Neighborhood Plan, that will remain in operation, I guess I should say. Will still, and it's not that it's more strict or less strict. What has happened is the proposal that's come forward is consistent with the Southdale Neighborhood Plan. It's not consistent with our current comp plan is what's happening here.
Shelley.
I have a few questions, I think. So we're here because there was a proposal, and I understand that what we do tonight is not going to be approving or denying the proposal. But I think it's obviously relevant to our conversation. So we have this proposal, and I'm not sure if what you said is the way it's configured right now does meet the lot design requirements or it does not.
Okay. As it's configured right now, if each townhomes were on their individual lots, it does not meet our current ordinance. They can build this as condos.
So on individual lots means what? There's spacing in between the units?
No, it just means just like you have a house and you have your own property lines. Sometimes townhomes, many times our townhomes, actually, you have your individual lot, your own parcel of land that your townhome sits on, and then your neighbor has their own parcel of land. I don't know if I can find something quick. Zero lot lines, yeah.
Do we know if that's would that be consistent with what is being proposed here? I guess I'm asking because if what the proposal is not possible given the ordinances, then why are we considering changing the designation right now when we don't have a proposal that's requiring it? And there are concerns about the neighbors and the process. And I'm a little concerned about if we go to high density, then if I'm correct in how I read things, that means there cannot be single-family detached homes and there can't be two-family detached homes there. So we've lost the opportunity of maybe trying to make this more of a neighborhood that's more consistent with all the other homes around it. If we go right from low density to high density and we skip medium density, and I know we're skipping medium density in our discussion because the proposal is for 24 units and medium wouldn't allow that, but if the proposal as it is right now is not doable or is not what the proposer intends, given that everything has to be its own lot, then I don't know why we should make a decision now or skip right from low to high. Thoughts, and I would like to be challenged in that, so I know if I...
Diane, can you explain why when we discussed this was median, but then because we are 2 units above the threshold, this is why we decided to go with high density. Can you explain that?
Yeah, sure. So medium density residential future land use is 5 to 9 units per acre. With the proposed 24 units per acre, that would not be compliant. It would be more than the 9 units per acre. It pushes them about a little over 10 units per acre. So that's where we ended up there. To speak a little more specifically to Shelley's comment, what is in front of you as a conceptual plan is buildable as a condominium under our code. It's just not buildable as separate parcels or separate parcels under our current land division ordinance.
And have you discussed that with the proposer? And
Yes, extensively.
I can ask you or I can ask them?
Yeah.
I mean, is that doable? Because I also would hope to see owner occupied in this area, and that's what the intent is, but I don't know if with the change, if that's still acceptable.
You need to come to the.
So based on the city's recommendations, we are working with both. We are open to either of those opportunities. Currently, we could go with the condominium plan and build as is on that property. But we are also working on an alternate solution that would bring it up to the intersection and give it the curb appeal that the city is looking for. So we're flexible in that way. Right now, it is compliant in terms of, as Deanna mentioned, from a condominium association perspective, not having single lot lines. But our goal is to give the owners as much freedom and flexibility to own their property in a way that they feel pride and they enjoy it. So as we continue to work through the actual construction process with the city and public works, we hope to accomplish the ideal scenario, which would be townhomes. But if we're not able to, we can still go through the condominium plan. The layout doesn't change as much. It's the ownership model that changes and the cost associated with it of home ownership. So we're trying to make this workforce housing very affordable for our community, in line with community aesthetics and what we're looking for the intersections. We'd like to continue working through the townhome process. It's the ideal scenario, but as of now, as of today, we would be compliant from a condominium perspective. It would change our buyer user base, that, you know, the bylaws and how they operate, but it does not change the physical building style.
And still owner occupied?
Yes,
So
both are
you're
owner occupied.
committed to that?
Yes.
So if these were townhomes, with, what's the max number that could be on these two lots?
Under the townhomes versus condos, there's not a difference. Under our comprehensive plan, it's based on units, dwelling units per acre. So whether they're townhomes or condominiums is irrelevant.
Well, but I thought there was for the complying with the other ordinance that talks about design.
Oh.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, well, though, and I can hear this might be a little more helpful. Okay, not that I'm promoting any one development or anything, but these are townhomes on individual lots. So each townhome shares the walls of the next townhomes, but they're on individual lots.
And so, but given
Given
these
what
lots.
you've shown before you, that doesn't work. These lots are fronting on a public street.
Right, so I'm saying if this was reconfigured so that the townhomes would front on Maloney and front on Rimrock, I mean, what's the max that?
Yeah, I don't
You don't
know that. Yeah, I don't have an answer to that.
And then for medium density, for two-family detached, I assume that would be this lot design and fronting on public road. Is that the same for two-family detached? And
Yeah, I guess to talk
this would allow 20 of those, 20 dwelling units if we went to medium. Right, I think that's what your memo said?
Is
I don't have my, it's
10 to,
it's
yeah.
2.25
Yeah.
acres, so, times by 9. Yep, you're right, 20. Bad math.
And 20 is too low of a number for you to make it economically viable?
I think from a fire code perspective, working with the construction company, it would help if we added 4 more units. It would help the cost, bring down the cost of each of the units down to a much more affordable level. But we are open to either. We were open to any number of units as long as they're owner occupied. And we are still able to accommodate a daycare center. And to answer the question of the sizing of the homes, so we're looking at 2,400 square feet for the daycare center and 1,600 to 1,700 square feet for the individual homes. which I think that was a question that came up earlier. And in terms of max capacity, being a small developer, first-time project, my max capacity is what I've calculated from what I can afford from a project perspective and what I'd like to see in the neighborhood. Prior to even procuring the property, we did a neighborhood survey. We briefly talked to the neighbors a little bit, and we took in their feedback of we don't want 3 stories, we don't want anything high-rise. We don't want something fronting the property because they'd like to see some green space. They'd like to use some of that facility of that green space and have a visual that's not too close to their eyes of these buildings that are coming up. So keeping all of that in mind, we're working with the city on the capacity that we can build at. But as a small developer, my commitment is to that 24 maximum just based on what I can also afford.
Any other question? Gabriel, and then you, Carol.
Do you have a sense of what, I mean, I do like that they're owner occupied. Do you have a sense of what the market rate for this type of townhome would be?
Yes, we have talked to the city about it without committing to a firm number. We're looking at $350 to $375, which if we look at the current market right now, there's nothing being offered at that price point that is at that individual home ownership level and also at giving the flexibility of the square footage. So, and that's why we're really trying to work within those costs and those barriers and trying to get to a unit size and unit number that can bring us to that price point.
Carol.
Point out one thing quickly, that the city of Fitchburg cannot dictate occupancy, so we can't put in a requirement that they're owner occupied. It's a state law, I believe, that can't be done. So how do you intend to reach your goal of having these be owner occupied versus rented?
So we actually talked about this in the neighborhood meeting as well. So we have been working with an attorney, and we're looking to put that in the home ownership bylaws where renting or Airbnbs or any kind of these VRBOs would not be permitted under the bylaws of the HOA. And that's our only legal recourse to make that binding from a developer perspective. But the HOA is what would, the homeowners association is what would dictate the bylaws of the community.
May I ask a couple more quick while I've got the microphone? Have you guys done a stormwater study already?
Yes. Our construction team from McKee has done a stormwater study, and the location of the stormwater has been associated towards the end of the driveway because the stormwater runs downwards towards our property. Our property has a bit of an incline towards the back of the property, and coming down towards Rimrock is the lowest point. So on the map that I'd shared or the site plan I'd shared, the stormwater is towards Rimrock, towards the end.
With the map.
There is an alternate stormwater also above towards the end of our Rimrock segment where the current driveway is. So we'll try and accommodate as much of the stormwater retention with keeping in mind the request to move some of the buildings up to the front. So that's the 2 areas over there are the stormwater retention. The water comes downwards, that's why the placement of that.
Okay. The other question I had is, have you also done a traffic study?
We have not done a formal traffic study. I think in the neighborhood meeting, Jay Allen had some input into it, but I personally have not conducted one.
So you don't have a number yet of how many trips this is going to generate for the neighborhood?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question for Deanna then quick, and then I promise I'll be quiet. Has staff had a chance to already review their stormwater study? Or is that something that'll come at a later stage?
That has not been reviewed by Public Works staff at this point. I know that they've been working on it, but staff has not reviewed stormwater.
Okay, thank you.
Shelley.
As the newcomer here, so we can only do 2 precious few amendments to the comp plan every year. This is the first. Is there likely to be, more than one more request?
I do expect that we will initiate the second round of comp plan amendment requests yet this year, probably late August and into September.
Okay. It goes in line with my my question as to whether or not we're a little premature here in jumping from low to high right now. And so I was wondering if we'd be eating up one of the, a comp plan change that we might regret, because we have two more after this one, is what I meant.
Let me clarify.
Thank you.
So it isn't that we can only change the future land use map just one little set. We just do the cycle 2 times a year. But for example, last year, we took 2 different applications through on one cycle. So it's not just one shot, one project.
Yeah. Any other question?
One more, and then I am going to be quiet. Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I know that there are apartment buildings on Rimrock, a little farther north, and I don't know, Deanna, if you would answer it, or somebody in the audience, how close are those apartment buildings to these lots? Is it?
We can put them up.
I can pull them up for us. So let me just go grab.
825 feet, according to Google.
She's looking.
Okay.
I'm a block person.
It's a block.
About a block.
A block, 2 blocks, yeah.
Okay, so, okay, here we are. So this is the lots right here that we are looking at. This is Artisan Village over here, which are some apartments, and then there's also apartments up here also.
I mean, north, fronting onto Rimrock, I believe there are apartments. So it's north of these lots?
Okay.
So I think Stephen said it's about a block away?
About 900 feet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking totally, yes. So
Okay.
up here, those are the ones you're interested in. So I can go and grab that for you. So to get us about here, that's about 700 feet, if you pull about here.
I still, sorry.
Question for staff. You had mentioned earlier that the Southdale neighborhood plan, that high-density residential would fit within the Southdale neighborhood plan, or it would be compliant, or I can't remember exactly what the term you used. What I want to ask though is, at low density, is it the same situation? Or does a change have to occur in our future land use in order to comply with the Southdale neighborhood plan?
That's a good question. The proposed development is consistent with the current Southdale neighborhood plan. So that's why staff is not bringing forward a change to the Southdale neighborhood plan, because what is being proposed is consistent with that. You bring up a good question. Probably a better fit. So the land uses in the Southdale neighborhood plan, that plan was done in conjunction with the town of Madison and the city of Madison. They used slightly different future land use categories than what Fitchburg does. To be more specific, probably to meet the, to fit probably more closely with Southdale, a medium density residential would probably be a closer fit. Does that kind of make sense? But what we did as staff is we looked at the proposed development, and that looks like it fits well with what's being proposed. What's being proposed fits well with the Southdale neighborhood plan. Given the number of units, staff recommended that they would need to go to high density residential in our comp plan.
Gabriela?
So you were talking about the difference between amending the comp plan versus amending the zoning.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the comp plan.
It is.
It's just the plan. It's not actually, like, there's a lot more steps before we'd actually get to a development. So assuming this passes and the comp plan, what is the current zoning of the And then what would be the next request, I guess, if assuming this passes?
Right. So the current zoning, and I'll just come in here, is low-density residential. And so if Plan Commission Council approved the change to the comp plan, the next step would be a request for zoning change. They would have to request zoning change. And then probably architectural design review. Depending on what we decide with condos, lots, or how that proceeds, there'd have to be a plat or a CSM that would also have to be done.
And so if we change the comp plan to high density, you can only change the zoning to high density. Like we couldn't.
No.
There's no like mix and match.
Under our current zoning, I'm pretty sure that this project is going to have to come forward as a planned development district. It's under our current zoning, it's very difficult to do development either at high density or medium density residential right now.
Thinking outside the box, what would be the possibility of proposing changing our medium density to 10 units at the top instead of 9 as part of this process?
Makes our life easier.
Yes.
Would we consider that a minor, I like where you're going, but would that be considered a minor amendment that feels major?
It is major. That's why I'm asking, if, would there be a process by which that could happen? Because we've run into this with, I can't even tell you how many developments in the past where you go from 9 to unlimited, and I don't blame neighbors. I would be upset too, because you're right. If the first one doesn't go through, then it's permanently changed, and you can't really stop it from, the train's at the station once that happens.
So
I wonder if that's even possible.
I asked a question, okay, because I agree with you. I asked a question about how we can change this, or add another medium, high medium, okay? And then the response that I got from staff is we need to do, next year we are planning to do an amendment to a revision to the comprehensive plan. It's something that we can discuss next year when we revise the comprehensive plan to add another zoning. And this one is in the plan because, as you mentioned, we jump from 9 to infinitive, you know what I mean? So we are looking to have like maybe a high medium density and describe maybe from 10 to, 20, 25, and then jump high density. So we discussed this. I had the same question. I discussed internally with the staff, and they told me that the only way to do it is when we go through the revision from the comp plan. I don't know if we can bring a minor amendment to the comp plan. I don't know that.
I honestly don't know the answer to that either. I would have to check a little bit deeper into that before I was comfortable to give a direct answer if we could change the dwelling units per acre through a minor comp plan amendment.
Can you explain one of the comments from the resident is, what happens if we approve that and then the project doesn't happen? So then that parcel is designated now like a high density. Can someone else come and say, I want to develop an apartment complex with 80 units? Can you address that?
I certainly can. Staff would not support such a proposal because it would not be consistent with the Southdale Neighborhood Plan. Council has adopted the Southdale Neighborhood Plan as a guide for our long-term development. This project, if such a project did come forward, staff would recommend to not approve a rezoning.
Okay.
So the project would stop there at the rezone.
Any question, Gabriela?
Yeah, I know can you talk a little bit about, since you clearly want to develop this property as owner-occupied townhomes with a child care facility, can you talk a little bit about why you want to do that? What is your rationale? Kind of what your goals are with this piece of property?
Sure. I think when I initially started looking at this property and looking at the market in general since the pandemic, since we have gotten into this inflationary cycle, young individuals like myself, it has become increasingly difficult to have affordable housing. In terms of rentals, I think there's a lot of properties out there that cater to many different kinds of folks, many different occupations, income levels. But when it comes to the ownership market, the residential ownership market, it is limited in terms of what many individuals can afford. And this being my first project, I wanted to really cater it to what the market needs and what our neighborhood needs versus what, general development plans would propose. So that was my passion there. In terms of the daycare center, seeing that in the area there was nothing available, and in talking to the city and some of the daycare providers, I think everybody was passionate about bringing this facility to this neighborhood, and just seeing the positive feedback. I think that became part of the plan to try and accommodate this as much as possible. So that's why the owner occupied in the daycare center facility.
Any other question from the commissioners? Zach, do you have any question?
Maybe not a question, but just to that whole consistency thing, to the first two gentlemen's points, right? So their lots are also designated in the Southdale plan as, this urban, what is it called? Urban residential. So, how do you fix that problem, right? When does that get updated if we're going to do this one? I do have concerns with the potential size of this getting out of control. I drive on Rimrock all the time. I think the traffic there is bad. So I do have concerns with that, especially with more development coming down to MM. So I don't know where that discussion leads, but it definitely is becoming more problematic. So, should that impact the decision on this one? Maybe, maybe not, but it is something that's a problem that will have to be solved at some point. So personally, I think medium density residential probably makes more sense here. But I like the idea of the owner occupied. We definitely need more of that. So definitely supportive on that front.
I'd just like to add one comment there. I think looking at the value this property or this residential concept of more affordable housing would bring, I understand that there's a traffic concern and there are other concerns of the neighbors. But in terms of the general population of what Fitchburg needs and what families need right now in terms of homes, I really think that it brings a lot more value than maybe disadvantage. This is only 24 units. We're not asking for 80. And we're not bringing in, assuming not huge families, so about 600, 700 people. We're bringing in a small number of people that we're hoping will preserve the land the way they would their own homes, having invested interest in them versus just renting a property. So I think it will bring a lot more value to the area, and the daycare center, of course, will add to that. So if we can just keep that in mind when we're looking at the traffic issues, but also what it'll bring to us.
Any other comment, question?
I'm going to be troublesome. I'm trying to figure out a way to get this down to medium. Is there any way that some of the land area can be taken from the daycare and added to the area for the residential to get that tipping point moved to get them down to 10? I mean, I don't know how far off they are from the 9 versus the 10.
When I calculated, right now they're at about 2.25 acres, correct me if I'm wrong, and for the 24 units entirety, including where the daycare is located, that's about 10.66 units per acre.
And that can't be done as a variance either, correct?
Not on the comp plan.
Okay.
We're not there.
But could it just be done with the zoning to say that we're going to allow it this one time as a variance? Depending how close it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd need to see the numbers, I think, to see.
I could do some more checking. I'm not comfortable
Yeah.
saying anything. Yes.
Shelley, do you have another question?
Do you have any idea if we went to medium and you could have the two-family detached, how many of those units you could have? Or is it still then the max of 20?
Max is gonna be 20.
Yeah.
So, okay, it's just having to front on a road, a public road is
It's
what
about units, yeah.
So would you even be able to even get 22 family detached if they all have to be on the, do you have any idea how many could get in that area?
If it goes to medium density, it doesn't have to be rezoned to RM, which would be the two-family medium you're talking about. It can still be zoned to RH, or it can be zoned to PDD, and it can become condos. It just has to fall within that 5 to 9 dwelling units per acre.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're talking a little foreign language for me
Sorry.
still.
Basically, it doesn't have to be two-family. It could be this same design minus 4 units, and it could go to medium density.
But it can't be two-family detached, from what I understand in the ordinance.
Not without having the frontage onto a public street.
No, now I could be totally wrong, but I thought the ordinance says for high density, you cannot have single-family detached or two-family detached. That's my concern, jumping all the way to high density. We've lost all those other options in case this proposal doesn't
You
work.
are correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other question?
Could we table this for a month while we get all our ducks in a row? I mean, is that on the table?
Can we table
Because I feel their pain,
Yeah,
but
we
I like what I'm seeing, but I feel their pain too. And
You'll postpone.
Postpone?
Yeah,
Okay.
Postpone.
Yeah, we can.
July.
We put to the July meeting? Yeah.
If that's what you want, you could.
What do you want to see if we postpone?
we have some questions still. We've talked about changing to the comp plan that would just change the number of units, which would allow something like this. Or maybe the developer would like to just remove 4 units and go forward because there'd be no problem.
Okay.
Maybe we've got involvement from the community, and as they get more involved, they might buy into it more or feel much more comfortable. So I just, this is leaving a bad taste in my mouth, but I still like what I see, but I feel their pain because I've been in the same spot. I built a house by myself where I hit every nail, and then they tried to build a 2-story or 3-story building in my backyard. You know, that was a long time ago.
Okay. Okay, so I don't know.
So we would, what we would need is just a motion
Sure, yeah.
to postpone to whenever, and I would request that you include the ordinance and then also PCR 0123.
Well, let me just put it out to the rest of the gang here. Does anybody have any thoughts on that, or do we want to act now on it, or do we want to kind of just get more information, see what our options are?
Rich, I would agree with you, and especially on that point of getting the neighborhood buy-in. You know, Jay brought that up as well, so I mean that makes sense.
If we postpone, could we then give, like, the planning department questions? Like, how many two-family detached would fit here? And
You can.
so we could give you a list of questions?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it sounds like we're all more inclined to go to medium density, but we all like the project, and we think the project is great. So, yeah, that's where I feel like a lot of us are. And so I really am interested in Carol's question of, can we do a variance on the zoning so that it allows, we go medium density, but we do a variance to allow for this project as is. And then we also know that the developer did share that they can go down to 20 units. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility to go down
No,
to 20.
yeah, it's not.
So it's like, and I also hate to postpone it because these neighbors are all here,
Yeah.
you know, and they all came out and they spoke and did not have a resolution tonight. But that sounds like where we're headed anyway, but maybe having the answer to that question of whether or not a variance would be provided would be, but it sounds like we're leaning towards this moving to medium density is what
Yeah, people feel
feels
more
like
comfortable with medium.
generally the consensus is building towards.
I agree.
So,
But would that work for this process, given that you've already proposed this amendment as a high-density residential? Could you
Oh, change it.
change it, or would it have to wait until the fall?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is not typical order change.
Yeah, that, it would probably have to wait for the fall one. And the reason is that we've gone through all the public notice. I guess what we could do is republic notice the project as medium density, but I guess I'd kind of have to start where we started from the beginning.
So I'm not following this zoning issue. If we said we wanted the comp plan to change the medium density, why do we need a variance for the zoning? Can't we just change zoning to medium density, or is there not a medium density in zoning?
There is a medium density in zoning. I think what Carol was, correct me if I'm wrong, was trying to say if we went ahead with the future land use as medium density, 5 to 9 units per acre, and then they came forward with the 24 units that, of course, wouldn't be compliant with the medium density, and then they would be requesting some kind of variance. Yeah, I'm not totally going to say what's going to work there.
Could I ask a process question as well?
Yeah, sure.
Hypothetically, if we did change it to 20 units, would we have to resubmit a comp plan, or would we come to the July hearing with the updated site plan and pick up where we left off? We would hate to push it to the fall because it pushes us back a couple of months.
Right. I understand where you're going with that, but I think what I would have to do is renotice. You'd have to give me another month here just to kind of renotice and start kind of at the beginning. I don't think we would have to, this is kind of an internal discussion here. But I think what we would have to do is renotice it as kind of like how we started at the beginning of June, which I'd be willing to do.
Sure. And I guess our goal was to keep the cost to a certain degree. What would be the city, well, I guess I'm not sure if you can answer that or not, but what would be the city's biggest preference is to maintain the daycare center, the housing number of units with the price points, or to change the number of units, and if bringing the buildings up front, changing the possibility of a daycare center or tabling it to a future phase, like what would be the city's top preference in terms of we need this phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 kind of situation?
I don't know. I need to think about that.
I don't know if we can give you
an answer
a
now.
total answer right now.
Sure.
So,
Deanna, there is a council meeting on June 27th. I don't know if it would be too soon to
what?
To refer out like a new minor comp plan amendment with medium. I don't know. I just wanted to point it out that.
Yeah, I think I probably would need to do that.
Yeah, I guess there's 2 council meetings in between, but there is in between now and the next plan commission meeting.
Okay, so what is the final?
Do I need to move to delay this till the next meeting, or just to table it until
Well,
further future
I
date?
think the right term would
be postponed.
And
to the July meeting?
To a future meeting which you'll set? Can I put the blame or burden on you?
Yeah, I think you could. I mean, I think usually we'd like to have a date known, but
should be July or August meeting?
If I have to renotice it,
it's going to be August.
It would definitely be August.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to move that we.
August.
August.
All right, move that we postpone ordinance 2023-0-10 and Plan Commission Resolution PCR-01-23 until our August meeting.
Second.
Any more discussion?
I have a discussion question.
Okay.
Which would be, if we defer action on this right now and postpone it to our next meeting, how does that impact the council's decision and their vote on this? Does that take it out of their packet and move it to their meeting?
It will stay in their packet.
Mm-hmm.
And if the timings don't hit right, I will ask council to also postpone to another date.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of postponing to the August meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all the neighbors for coming today. So next, we have another public hearing. Okay, we have a next public hearing and consideration of rezone RZ-2508-23. Request by Robert Shea, agent of Orchard Point Development Company, to rezone property from BH Highway Business to PDD-GIP Plan Development District General Implementation Plan in order to develop a senior living facility with complementary uses located at 2883 Ficherona Road. So where is the applicant, please? Are you the applicants? Can you come to, we are open the public hearing. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you very much. My name is Steve Strom. I'm Vice President of Development at Ryan Companies, and here to present the proposal for our senior housing community off of Ficherona Road. I just want to acknowledge and introduce a couple folks that have joined me here and also online as well. So just quickly, Chris Tejan, Vice President of Architecture with Ryan. We also have Heidi Mapes in Architecture and McKenna Gunderman from our Civil Group, and then Connor Nyer from our development team as well. Just want to give thanks to staff. Appreciate the collaboration thus far. We've been working on this project for the past 6 months, and it's been good back and forth with Deanna and also Zach, so really appreciate the collaboration, and also the various departments like fire, et cetera. So it's been a really thorough process, and again, I'm going to reserve a lot of my comments and because of the thorough report that Deanna's put together. So I'm responsible for the project and the team. I want to introduce our operator, who's not here with us today, but American House is headquartered out of Detroit, Michigan. They've been in the senior housing business for about 40 years, and we're really pleased to have them as part of our team. Just a little bit about their footprint. They have about 50 communities stretched across the Midwest. Detroit and Michigan would be the nearest communities to this location, but they're in New England and Florida as well. We're really excited about this project. It feels like a great fit and complement to the neighborhood. I'm going to explain a little bit of the why, just to give some background. First of all, we had a third-party market consultant perform a market study in terms of just giving us a sense of the demand for senior housing in the city of Fitchburg. And there's certainly substantial demand. As we all know, there is a huge demographic wave and need for senior housing, and bringing diversity and density to this neighborhood is certainly a great option. And as we reflected on the site itself and also thought about the growing 2030 plan that you all have, a couple things stood out to us really the most. One of the things that I drew out was the fact that really the desire for senior housing to be close, walkable to some of the amenities and services. And as you can see here, you know, we back up to the Target, we're near the Hy-Vee and some of the other retail, not to mention the other senior housing community right next to us, Quarry Ridge, which is an independent living only senior housing community. It really creates this great synergy around us, and I think addresses that need for diversity of housing and also senior housing in the area. Certainly the location, we love the main access here. This part of West Fitchburg has great density in terms of commercial, from a commercial district standpoint. And I just think it provides really easy access and visibility. Seniors want to be able to find our location. The adult children want to be able to find us really easily, and that certainly is accomplished here. So again, really excited about the synergies with your 2030 plan, and again, excited about the project. The last thing I'll mention is, unlike a lot of high-density residential, such as multifamily, senior housing creates a lot of jobs. We'll have about 70 up to 75 full and part-time employees staffing this community. American House takes a great pride in being a fabric of the community and keeping those jobs in Fitchburg, getting jobs closer to where people live, driving more patrons to the area businesses. That's something that also that we bring to the area. So I just didn't want to overlook that point about the employees and staffing that we're bringing to the town with this project as well. You know, again, we're really trying to deliver the best project possible. It's a tight site. We've had to be very efficient. And again, I've got my colleagues online and also Chris here joining me to address any concerns and questions you have about our design, civil, landscape, et cetera. But again, thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to staff memo.
The applicants have proposed a 109-unit senior living housing development that would include 81 assisted living units, which would be residential care apartment complex, and then 28 memory care units, which is also referred to as the community-based residential facility on the parcel. The property amended the existing CDP to high-density residential in January, so that did come before Plan Commission last January. The same CDP was amended in 2019 for the parcel immediately to the west, which is Quarry Ridge, which provides 130 unit senior housing, independent living. I don't want to copy myself here. The proposed development would anticipate a need for 75 employees in total, with a max daytime shift estimating at 35 employees during the daytime hours, nighttime shifts estimating a total of 15 employees. The hours of operation for this facility would be 24/7, 7 days a week. The applicant did not specify hours for the ancillary uses, which are also included in your packet, which would be multi-purpose theater, dining, bistro, lounges, library, fitness, administration and support offices, mailrooms, salon, and storage, and then maintenance. The next step, so this step in the process of development is the Plan Development District GIP. If approved by Plan Commission and also Council, the next step in the process would be Plan Development District SIP and the architectural design review that would come before, both would come before Plan Commission, and the SIP would go before Council. Staff recommends approval of the rezone to PDD GIP. There are 5 conditions, and under number 2, you'll see the standards in the proposed GIP ordinance.
Okay, thank you, Diana. So discussion. Oh, we close the public hearing, sorry, and then discussion. I'm gonna get it, guys. Okay, so we close the public hearing and then discussion. Any questions? Steven.
Question under the staff recommendation 2E is maximum impervious surface ratio of 75%. Isn't that higher than our typical? I thought our normal was 70 or something, 68.
Our normal is 65%.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And as was mentioned, that it is a very tight site, and they are proposing the 75.
Okay.
Do you have any problem with it? No. No. To you, yeah.
They're proposing to accommodate all their stormwater and meet their stormwater requirements. I don't have a,
Part of me was mostly wondering, are they asking for 75 or are we just granting something above and beyond what we normally would? So
Oh.
that was part of it. And also, normally I would probably push back, but knowing that area, it's about a foot of dirt and hundreds of feet of rock. So the whole area is impervious. So whether you put blacktop a foot above it or not, there's not much dirt there to absorb. So that works. Thank you.
Thank you, Steven. Any other question? Gabriel?
I guess I have a question for the developers, if that's okay. I was curious about the jobs, the 75 jobs. Do you have a sense of what the salary would be for those jobs?
I can follow up with you. It's a wide range. I mean, starting from administration, the executive director, working down through that administration, sales, marketing, culinary, and then obviously we've got all our caretakers, nurses, et cetera. So I could follow up with more detail, but it's a diverse range.
Great. And then I also had a question about, so I'm also new to the Plan Commission, so this is a little bit to staff too, but so our parking ratio is 0.75 stalls per unit. Is that a high-density residential requirement?
So we have parking standards. We don't have parking ordinance that does a specific requirement. And so traditionally, it seems that Plan Commission has had some flexibility depending on the situation, depending on the number of people that would be living there.
So that's lower than our normal? Which it seems appropriate because it's a senior living facility.
Oh,
Yes,
significantly lower.
Oh, significantly lower. Okay, that's what I was trying to get a sense of is, because it seems like with a memory care facility with an extra assisted living, those individuals are probably not having their own car.
Correct.
So you probably need far less parking than the average resident. So my question is this too much parking? Like, do we actually need this much parking?
Well, staff needs to park too. We've got more staff dealing with memory care and all that, so.
This wasn't a number that staff recommended.
So this is the number of
More driven by our operator.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So
Just thinking about staffing, thinking about families visiting, et cetera, vendors, that's the appropriate, from their experience, that's the appropriate parking count.
Okay. Because my question is, I just never want the parking requirements to prevent us from having additional housing that would be good for the site. I don't want there to be that discrepancy, I guess is why I asked the question.
Yeah.
And then I just have a little question. This is more inspired by the meetings I was looking. You said you have a neighborhood meeting, and it seems like the standard for neighborhood meetings is you notify people within 500 feet of the property. Is that by city ordinance? Is that just a standard of what people do in the industry?
Minor comp plan amendment, 500 feet. All the other public hearings, we are required to do 300.
Oh, 300?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like enough. That's why I'm just 500.
You can write an ordinance.
It just seems like nothing. I don't know. It just seems like the neighbors don't know anything if it's if that's the radius.
We can certainly look at that again, but that's
less
the way
it's just more general speaking. That seems to create upset, I guess, is when people don't know about the project because they haven't been notified, and then they get upset and they aren't part of the process early on. So, but yeah, it looks like a great project, and seems like the Quarry Ridge people can move if they're ready to. If they need more assistance, they can move next door, and it does seem like a good kind of
complement.
Yeah, it's kind of like an environment that works for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've been great to work with.
I have a question. How tall is going to be the building?
Maximum stories in the requirements.
Okay.
2D, 3 stories, maximum 55 feet.
Okay, so that one is going to be, okay.
Yeah, we'll probably be a little bit under that at the end of the day, but we want to have a sloped roof, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other comment, question? No? No? Zach, do you have any question? No, okay.
Nothing here. I like it.
Okay.
Good.
I'll move to approve RZ 2508-23 with the 5 conditions noted by staff.
Second.
And all those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next we move to C. Who is moving this? I need a motion for C. Huh?
Oh, we're gonna not do the motion, but this one, so we have the certified survey, we do have to do a public hearing.
Oh, yeah, they are all together, sorry.
We'll do those three together.
Okay, we're doing the three together. So next we have, first we are going to open the public hearing and consideration of rezone RZ-2507-23, request by Samantha Herham, agent of the University of Wisconsin Credit Union, to rezone property from AT, that is a transitional agricultural, to BP, business professional, in order to update zoning for the existing business facility associated with 2885 Fish Hatchery Road. So if the applicant wants to come, Samantha? So do we have someone to speak? Where is? Okay. Okay, so Samantha, yes.
Yep. Thanks for having us. What we're looking at is a remnant parcel that UW Credit Union recently purchased from the city of Fitchburg. And what they'd like to do is do some minor reconfiguration of their parking lot to allow for some additional space for queuing for their drive up, and also add some staff parking. Also provide a driveway connection to another driveway which will go out to Ochala, which is a signalized intersection with Fish Hatchery Road. So that will provide their clients with a signalized intersection to access the property. We're looking at we've submitted a certified survey map. We're looking at rezoning, and then we also had an ADR submittal all as one package.
Okay. And then we have Cheryl
Weisensell, yes.
Yeah. In support of this matter and to answer any question. So what is your relation with you are working from the bank?
I am the facility director for
Okay.
UW Credit Union.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So do you want to add anything else to this?
I think the thing to note is, I mean, this parcel of land would not have had much value to anyone else. And we thought it was a great opportunity. The big thing is accessing our parking lot off of the new access drive that was put in off of Ochala Drive, so that our members can come in and exit off, I'm going to say, out of the parking lot to the light to go south, because right now they have to do, go north to go back on south, and that is unsafe.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense, yeah. Any question? Gabriel?
I just want to say I do use your facility, and that turn and in and out is a nightmare.
Yes.
Because people are going in and out, and it is quite dangerous. So I'm really glad that you're going to fix that and use Ochala Drive, which is a great, that signal is great, and we should, hopefully, it'll be used more. My one question, I'm sorry, am I allowed to go? Okay. You said that you were removing the sidewalk. Can you just clarify, one of the sidewalks was being removed as part of this?
So there was sidewalk that was installed on the west side of that access drive as part of the Fish Hatchery Road reconstruction project. What happened after that installation was there was some conflicts between pedestrians from the Avalon property and vehicles coming to and from the UW Credit Union property that caused some concern with that Avalon property owner. And so at that time, it was discussed with City Public Works staff, and it was discussed that that sidewalk could be removed to reduce any sort of conflict access points there.
So in terms of, I'm just curious where the pedestrians are going to go instead, so that there's a sidewalk. So that sidewalk is the one parallel to Fish Hatchery Road, is that right? Or no, it's, I'm just trying to visualize. Thank you.
Yep, if you can pull the plan sheet back up.
Okay.
And the site plan is probably the best. So it's basically, there's sidewalk along a driveway that's off of Ochala. So it won't be sidewalk from Fish Hatchery Road that's removed. It won't be sidewalk from Ochala that's removed. It's sidewalk from that kind of shared driveway. So the only people that would use that sidewalk would potentially be coming from UW Credit Union or from Avalon. And Avalon has indicated that they have concerns with those pedestrian and vehicular conflicts.
We have a sidewalk that goes from the Avalon property up to Fish Hatchery Road. It kind of goes right past our main entrance there. And so the thought is that for people that are from Avalon to take a sidewalk to, go, I'm going to say south to go back up would probably not happen.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to think if there's any, I'm just worried that you might have people using that path anyway without the sidewalk. And there's a new development going in, as you know, further down to Chala.
So where
There
is that?
is. So Ochala will continue to have sidewalk along both sides. It'll be that,
This is the piece.
Thank
Am I on the right plan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I think we're talking about this piece of sidewalk. The sidewalk along Oshala would remain, and then there's still sidewalk. This is the Avalon that's sitting over here. And so this sidewalk would still remain.
Avalon residents are
so-
still going to want to walk in that direction, I guess, is like, because there's that stormwater pond and there's that forested area. It just seems, I don't know, I'd just be worried that we remove that sidewalk and then people are still, it's still a
And
problem
it's-
because people are still pedestrians there.
yep.
If it's
I
not a
guess
concern, maybe
it's-
staff doesn't think
it's
it's a
a-
concern. I just was curious.
Staff had a question about that, and staff wasn't very concerned about it, I guess if you would like us to retake a look at that, we certainly could. And I think this was more of a request from Avalon. Is that right?
There's sort of a complex background with coordinating with Avalon, but it was a point of concern with them, a pretty serious concern with them. So removing the sidewalk, I guess from everyone's perspective, would remove that sort of access point of pedestrians and vehicular conflict. The folks that would be walking from Avalon would be walking through the Avalon parking lot. They'd be walking to Ochala, and I guess I'm not sure if there's going to be, I guess points of interests or things they're going to be walking to on Ochala specifically.
Okay. All right.
But they would have that kind of sidewalk connection through UW Credit Union to walk to Fish Hatchery Road, which might be a more direct route.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Any other question? No? Okay, so we are closing the public hearing. So now we move to the motion. So which one we start? We start with C?
Yes, so staff will need a motion on each one of these items, C, D, and E. Staff does recommend approval of the certified survey map with 4 conditions, and approval of the rezone with 3 conditions, and then approval of the ADR with 7 conditions.
I move to approve certified survey map CS-2506-23 with 4 conditions noted by staff.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the certified survey map, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So the
I
next.
move to approve rezone request RZ-2507-23 with the 3 conditions noted by staff.
Second.
Any other additional comment? No? All those in favor of approving public hearing and consideration of rezone, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And E.
I move to approve the ADR of UW Credit Union parking expansion with the 7 conditions noted by staff.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor of approving the ADR, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
So next we move to
Item F.
Where we are?
We're on item F.
Oh, F, okay. So next we move to F. So we have a public hearing, another one. So we ask on consideration of ordinance 2023-0-11, requiring tree preservation plans to be included with preliminary plat by creating section 24-4G of Fitchburg Code of Ordinance. So can the applicants, do we have, who are the people want us? This one?
Yep, these are our people that are registered
To speak, okay.
And then we also have Anna, the city forester,
And
who
Linda,
is online, and then Linda Brewer is also online.
So we are going to start with Craig Rapp, okay? He wishes to speak in support of the matter. So, Craig.
All right. So we came before the Plan Commission previously a few months ago to talk about this, but now it's back to you from more official sources. I'll quickly just describe. We've done a long process here. The Tree Advisory Committee has spent a lot of time researching, talking, discussing the various things that go into getting a tree preservation ordinance. What we came up with, we think, is a strong ordinance that would satisfy our tree canopy goals, as well as allow us to apply to be a tree city of the world. And then, in a nutshell, our goal is to have a survey done on all new plats. That survey would only be of, quote, desirable trees that we have determined to be native, useful for the area, and hopefully have a long life there. Then after that survey process is done, the developers would be submitting a preservation plan that would come along with staff comments to the Plan Commission here. The details of that plan aren't specific. We just have a kind of a hope that the city staff will work with the developers to come up with the right fit for that plan. That's a little bit more of a procedure-based thing, the details of that. And then what I'm coming to you today to also ask is we had a little bit of I think, a misunderstanding with the city staff on their recommendations. So what I would like for the Plan Commission to support is basically the staff recommendation, but with a couple key changes. So the staff reworded the draft that came out of the Tree Advisory Committee, and largely we think they did a bang-up job. The structure works really well, but three key things that we think should be changed. One is that we had recommended a 6-inch diameter at breast height for the surveys. This is an industry standard of when a tree is considered viable for the long term. So if it's made it that far, it's likely to continue. Staff did change that recommendation from 6 inches to 18 inches. We really feel that misses the mark pretty significantly on what the goal of the preservation ordinance is. For a bit of context, a 6-inch diameter at breast height oak could be 30 years old. A 18-inch diameter at breast height oak, 90 plus 100, some even as old as 150, would not yet hit that diameter at breast height. So concisely, we would like to have your recommendation for a 6-inch diameter at breast height. Additionally, they did remove some of the tree species that we had listed in our thing, so it's a pretty concise list of trees that we are hoping to get surveyed. The reasoning for removing some of them is that it was determined that they're less likely to be those long-term heritage trees. We feel that if they already meet the diameter at breast height, then they're more likely to be ones we'd want to keep anyway, which is why we would like to add back the ones that we had in our original draft. And then finally, the original draft required a certified arborist to do the survey. The staff recommendation, we think, could potentially be workable. It says a certified arborist or a comparable professional. We're just not sure how a comparable professional is going to be judged in any meaningful way beyond beyond a certified arborist. It is possible that staff feels very confident that they can kind of work with people to make sure that the person doing the survey is sufficiently, has sufficient expertise. But we feel for simplicity and kind of ongoing maintenance of this ordinance that having a certified arborist would be a stronger move. I think that's it in terms of prepared remarks. I am happy to.
Okay, I'm gonna call other people and then you can ask you more questions. So next is Sue Easterday. She wishes to speak in support.
Hi there, I'm Sue Easterday, 2731 Osmondson Road. I'm the chairperson of the Parks Commission and have been for just a little bit over 2 years. I want to thank staff, Deanna and Zach and Anna, any others who've been assisting us get information together. It's much appreciated. I am speaking in support of the tree protection ordinance created by the Tree Advisory Committee. And I know that Linda Brewer and Craig have done the majority of the work, but they came to the Parks Commission first in spring of 2021 to talk about getting started on it because it's their role and Parks Commission's role to do the work that's been done. So Linda will go over more of this, and I won't get too deeply into detail, but the comprehensive plan policy charges the Parks Commission, which the Tree Advisory Committee reports to develop a tree protection ordinance. These are goals: develop a tree protection ordinance, a tree diversity plan, and a tree canopy of 30% in the urban service area. And the Tree Advisory Committee's ordinance is a big step towards satisfying all of those requirements. And about those 3 goals that I just read, developing a tree preservation ordinance, as stated, it began in spring of 2021. And Linda, and in your packets too is a list of the various steps the Tree Advisory Committee took. Since then, it's 2 years at least. The next item, taking steps to increase the tree canopy in the urban service area to 30%. Now, I first started on Parks Commission about 5 years ago. The Tree Advisory Committee came with a presentation, and the data available then was that the tree canopy in the urban service area was in the low 20%, let's say 24. And there's been nothing but tree loss since then because of emerald ash borer. So the goal is, let's assume we're at 22%. We're not super close to 30%. So the next item is we're talking the tree diversity and tree canopy goals fit together in that a tree canopy isn't consisting only of trees that have an 18-inch diameter at breast height and larger. An actual tree canopy is everything. Small, medium, large, because if you only pay attention to things that are big, you will not have many things that get that big later if everything else is expendable. So that is why I think their ordinance is most appropriate. One thing about my thought about the 6-inch standard is that I think it gives the Plan Commission discretion and the developer, because this ordinance isn't requiring that every tree that's surveyed must be saved. You might have an instance where you have a beautiful tree, but it's in the wrong place. But if you have surveyed other important trees, you might find a corner or a niche or an area that makes a park that has 5 or 6 trees that have 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch diameter. You wouldn't even know about those unless they're surveyed and identified, so it's to your advantage. There was, shifting gears a little bit, there was an online article, you've probably all received a copy of it, the city was sending it around, about the best place to live in every state. Wisconsin, Fitchburg, is the number 10 city, according to this article. And one of the lines from that article is that this city boasts a network of parks, trails, and nature preserves. And I would like for us to someday, soon, be able to say that we boast a robust and meaningful tree preservation ordinance. We know that trees cool and oxygenate the environment. Mature, healthy trees, well, not just mature, healthy trees boost real estate value. A healthy tree canopy supports the biodiversity of all wildlife. The simple pleasures and benefits of a well-developed tree canopy should be available to all of us, and that is a principle of the concept of tree equity.
So your 3 minutes are up. So
all right. Well, good thing I was one sentence from the end.
Okay.
Thank you much.
Thank you, Sue. So next we have online Linda Brewer. Linda, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
We thought we had more than 3 minutes because the circumstances were so unusual, but so I will just review some things. I know that we had gone through all the committees. We were told to go to the Park Commission, which we did, and we went to the Plan Commission and RCC. We were not told to go to CETA by Deanna, so we were. They haven't had the opportunity of having the background information that all of you have had, and I know you have new members as well. So there were just a couple of things that I wanted to share with from the presentation. And the first one is, Sue has already reiterated it, that we were charged with developing a tree ordinance based on the Comprehensive Plan Policy 1.3.6, develop a tree protection ordinance, a tree diversity plan, and a tree canopy of 30% in the urban service area. She's already talked about the reasons, a lot of the reasons why that's important. We are particularly concerned because of the rapid development in Fitchburg. It seemed like a really logical place to put this ordinance. I won't go through all this. I did want to go through, just show the list of the committees we went through and the whole process we had engaged in prior to, and the last one on here would have been March 22nd, 2023, when we visited the Committee of the Whole. So we've been working on this for two and a half years. And then what happened after the March meeting with Committee of the Whole, that a team at the administrative office picked it up and changed it dramatically. And that's why we're here tonight. I also wanted to, we're confused with the recommendations that the city staff had made, because a lot of these things weren't discussed with us at all, and we weren't part of the planning. And I just wanted to just point this out, and we don't have to go through it, but in February, Chad offered to get some feedback from developers on the ordinance that you are seeing in front of you, the copy that you got tonight. And these were like the 3 questions that came from that discussion, which we've answered. None of those had to do with increasing the DBH to 18 inches or decreasing the number of species of trees in the ordinance, because the plan is very basic. We really followed the guidelines of our city attorney. We know that other cities in our areas, like Mequon and some other areas, have a much more comprehensive plan. We were told to be very cautious about what we required. I know that City of Madison does require private owners on their land, when they are going to be doing any pruning, they're required to get a permit from when it's an oak tree. They don't have to pay for it, but they have to get one. So I know that it's very easy to find when you Google the professional information, that there are ordinances that are being created and have been created in all areas of our country. And these deal with heritage trees as well as trees that are well established. And we've already discussed that. Oops, I don't think I wanted you to see that. I'm sorry. I could not be here tonight, and that's why I'm participating remotely. So the other thing that I wanted to put up is this DBH, and Chad included that in your packet, so you have this, but I think it is extremely profound. So we're talking about if we only have 18-inch trees, those are like heritage trees, landmark trees, they're huge. So we're not even considering at the 10-inch, for instance, the 10-inch mark, trees are 102 years old, 76 years old, 84 years old. We again chose 6 inches because trees with a 6-inch DBH are considered very well established and very healthy in the area they are growing in. And then you go up from there. When you
Linda, your 3 minutes are up. Sorry.
So I guess then what questions does the Plan Commission have for us?
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Next, I have Jay Allen. He wishes to speak, but I don't know if he's in support or in opposition. Surprises.
I always try to. So, those of you who know me know that I've been around Fitchburg politics for many, many years. And it's pretty rare that I have members of other commissions contact me because they are very upset with the way something was handled. Not only did council get emails prior to the council meeting last week when this was referred out, but since then there have been more emails, there's been more discussions, and like you are basically volunteers who serve on the Plan Commission. You know, maybe you get your $25 per diem if you apply for that, but for the most part, you're volunteers. You put a lot of time into this, and the Tree Advisory Committee has put a lot of time into coming up with an ordinance. As I understand it, they've worked on this for about 2 years, a little over 2 years maybe. They came up with a recommendation. It went to city staff, and city staff didn't like some of the things that were in it. On the last week, we had our council meeting where it was referred out, so the deadline was Friday to have this information in the packet. The Tree Advisory Committee met on Thursday before that, and at that meeting, the draft of this ordinance was not available for them to look at. They got some comments from Anna, who was at that meeting, but they didn't actually get to see the ordinance, and then suddenly the next day, it's in the packet to be referred out. If I were on the Tree Advisory Committee, I would think that wasn't fair. I would think that was wrong, and it was a wrong direction for the city to go. Now, I don't know anything about trees, which is why I'm not on the Tree Advisory Committee. I don't know what the right size is to preserve. I don't know if it's 18 inches. I don't know if it's 16 inches. I'm pretty sure that 18 inches is wrong. Maybe the answer is 12 inches. Maybe the answer is 10 inches. I don't know. You guys get to figure that out to make your recommendation to council, and of course, I'll be doing some more research on it between now and the time it comes back. I don't know, there was also some changes in the species that were being preserved, and for some reason, maple trees were taken off that list. And there, we have around, if you don't have to drive very far from here to find large maple trees that are worthy of preservation. So I agree with their other concern about the certified arborist or other qualified person. I don't know what other qualified person qualifies as a certified arborist. So I strongly believe that that should be the type of person that these developers hire. But I really don't like the way the process of this ordinance has gone about. I don't like the fact that the Tree Advisory Committee is not the lead committee on this, but that it's now the Plan Commission. I don't know how that change got made, but regardless of that, you're tasked with making some changes to this ordinance, I hope, and sending it on its way. So I would ask that you take the recommendations that the Tree Advisory Committee has given you and incorporate them the best you can into this ordinance. I'm not going to tell you that 6 inches is the right number because I don't know. I don't know enough about trees to answer that question. But I am quite sure, as I've driven around the city and looked at various trees that we have on city property, that 18 inches is wrong. And I know there's reasons for that. I know that that's a size where there's different types of equipment that have to be used to remove a tree that big. But to me, that's kind of an arbitrary standard because you can build equipment to do anything. I think it's up to you to improve this ordinance and make it better. Now, I also want to just make one last comment before I go. I have a personal issue with calling this a tree preservation or even a tree protection ordinance because it doesn't do that. What it does is it says to the developer, if you're going to develop a piece of land, you have to provide a plan to us that says what you're going to do about these trees. And we're only, right now, what it says is we're only interested in trees bigger than 18 inches. So if the developer decides that all the trees bigger than 18 inches should be removed, that's their plan. They don't have to keep any of those trees. Now, there are legal issues that are involved here because if the city says, well, you can't cut down that tree, that's a taking under state statute, and the city would have to reimburse for that. We don't have a budget line item for that.
Jay,
But maybe this will
3 minutes
eventually,
are up.
maybe eventually this will evolve into that. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. So next, do we have anyone for the public hearing? No? Okay, so we are closing the public hearing. Now we're going to a staff memo, and then we go into discussion.
So I don't have any specific things to add. What I will just point out that as written, the tree preservation ordinance would require the Plan Commission and then planning staff at City Forester to review the tree preservation plan. I just wanted to bring that out to Plan Commission. On average, the Plan Commission reviews 1 to 2 preliminary plats per year. And other than that, I'm open for any questions.
Okay, so I'm going to open the discussion, and I'm going to make first some comments, okay? So I was, until April this year, part of the Tree Advisory Committee, okay? And I want to thank you all, Craig, Linda, Sue, all the team because they have been working for this tree ordinance for at least 2 or 3 years, something like that. Gabriela was there before, and I remember Gabriela mentioning that in council before my turn. And then the other thing I want to mention is until April that I was part of this, and we discussed in every meeting, we never discussed or brought to our attention the dimension of the tree. And we never discussed, it was never brought to our attention any concept about the species, okay? And so that one is, I want to make it clear because it was never presented to us in the committee like it was a concern. The Tree Committee Advisory did the due diligence last year. They presented to the Committee of the Whole. Then they went to a couple of commission to get feedback. And also we get feedback from some of the developers. So if we follow the comprehensive plan like our Bible, in the comprehensive plan say that we need to create a tree ordinance, preservation ordinance. As I mentioned, I am flexible with I think 18 inches is too big. I can compromise because I don't know, like Jay mentioned, I am not a tree expert, I don't know. But I looking at this, there was a table on the packet with some size, and years. And, you look at 10 inches and it's about a tree that is 66, 76 years. They can last that. And for me, it's like years old. So it's a lot of years, you know what I mean? So do I want to keep that, preserve that tree? Yes. Regarding the arborist, I will agree with the Tree Advisory Committee that we need to have, an arborist to decide, to be make the decision. And then the only thing that I will add to this is that if we call it a tree preservation, I think what is missing here in this is like something that we should consider, and maybe we don't discuss in the tree committees. If we are asking to remove some trees, okay, it doesn't say anything that how many they had to plant back. You know what I mean? So what is the ratio? Is 2 trees per one that they remove? What is the ratio? 1 to 2, 1 to 3? We never discussed that, but I would like to have that language in the ordinance to say, okay, if we are going to remove all these trees, we are going to replant or no? If we are not taking. And this is when we are also protecting the 30% canopy and all of that. So that one is something that I would like to see there. I don't know if we can do it or not, but I would like to see that. And then, I am forgetting that. One second. What else? Oh, it's going to come to me, but the species, I think, like a maple. I'm going to tell you, I have 3 maple trees in my backyard, and they are like, they grow fast, but the diameter is kind of big too. I think one of them is more than 18 inches, So do we say that we need to take that tree, down because it's not an oak? I don't know. So I have a question with that. And the other thing I want to mention is when we discuss in the tree committee advisory, it was in our mind to stop development, okay? We are, what we want is when we do developer come with a preliminary plat, they tell us where the trees are, but I don't think that the committee has any intention to stop any development. What we want to see where those trees are and if we can preserve some of the trees that they can be preserved. That's it. There is nothing like we are going to stop development adding that, because a lot of municipalities, they have a tree preservation, and also in our comprehensive plan, it mentioned that we need to create one. So this is my personal position about this. So I am open for, who's next?
I'll speak. I find this interesting. I just got back from Vermont. I was on maple farms. There were just gazillion acres of sugar and red maple. Reading the packet, the first thing that got me was the 6 to 18 inches. That's quite a jump. I would like to see something closer to maybe 16 or 14 or 12 inches. And I understand that requiring 6 might be excessive requirement on somebody, but I don't think it would be, say, if we said 14 inches or something like that. I would like to see this changed into a little smaller number. I would also like to see sugar and red maples included. If anybody's interested, it takes 4 times as much red maple as it does sugar maple to make syrup. But I would like to see, I'm in agreement, I would like to see the species reinserted, and I'd like to see the diameter, the breast height diameter reduced from 18 to maybe it's 16 or 14 or something that we could all agree on.
Okay, who's next? Stephen, and then Shelley, and then Carol. Okay.
Procedurally, this just feels like an ordinance that shouldn't even be in front of us right now. So how did we get, because I remember when you guys were here a couple months ago, we talked, nothing was said other than 6 inches at that time. I kind of balked that it seems pretty small, but why are we even looking at an ordinance that the originators don't have any agreement on? This feels like we're talking about staff has rewritten what the original intent was. Well, who and why is it sitting before us? Because procedurally, if we say we're going to change it, let's say back to 6 inches, does that get that goes back to Common Council to then refer back out to, or do we just continue this project? It just feels like homework hasn't been done, and I really don't appreciate us wasting our time rewriting something that should have come to us in a finished state to begin with.
It's going to follow, we can recommend, I want to say I move this forward because it was stopped, okay? So I want this resolution to move forward through commission and to have the commission the voices and recommendations. So we can recommend Plan Commission can do our own recommendation, and it's going to move to the next commission. That is, I don't know, it's going to go to Park, it's going to go to CEDA. I don't know where else it's going. I don't remember. But then each of those commissions can add or remove stuff, and then it's going to go to council, you know, and for the final resolution. But the idea is, we have been working with that for 2 years, Stephen. Okay? So it's time, I think, to move. And I agree with you. There were some things that there were no, the tree committee didn't have the opportunity to discuss, or they were never brought to their attention. But I think we can provide some recommendation for this. So what's next? What did it say, Shelley? Okay.
So does anybody here know why? And I'm going to assume the ordinance moved from 6 to 18 and cut some of the species because the developers thought it was too burdensome. Is there another policy reason why we switched from the 2 years of expert data and, data collection, everything that the Tree Advisory Committee did?
We can ask Anna Healy. She's here. Anna, can you answer the question?
Sure. Yes, I can definitely answer a question. So was the question, why the DBH changed?
Yes.
Why is that and why the species changed? What's the policy reason to change it? I'm going to assume because developers thought it was burdensome, but I'm wondering, is there another policy reason that we would choose to not follow what I'm going to say the expert tree advisory committee has recommended?
There really isn't a policy reason, I would say. I think there was a concern also just if we, to have too much, almost too much information. If we had larger trees on the plat, that would help us, do a little bit better planning. It'd be a little bit cleaner. But there really isn't a policy reason that I know of, and maybe someone else knows, but there isn't a policy reason that I'm aware of for that change.
None of us know what the right diameter is. We have the only people that have really studied it said it should be 6 inches, which if that's a tree that is viable enough to grow into a 150-year-old tree, isn't that what we want? I mean, we want trees that will have the ability to grow to become what we want them to become. And I think at 10 inches or 12 inches, you're a 60-year-old tree, an 80-year-old tree. I think that tree deserves some respect. And I think 18 inches is way too big, and especially when we don't even know how that figure was derived.
Thank you. Okay, Carol, and then you.
I guess with respect to the 6-inch versus the 18-inch, I mean, I would think that if you're doing a tree survey of a large plat and you have to provide information on every 6-inch tree that's on a wooded plat, that would be really burdensome. Pardon me?
But it would be the 6-inch trees of these species.
Right, so they've got to go through and check every 6-inch tree. What if there's 500 of them? Right, but even still, you're hiring an arborist, and they're going to look at this huge wooded field, and that's what they're going to base their rates on. So are we going to say that we don't want you to take out a 6-inch tree, and are we going to sit here till 3 in the morning arguing about which trees have to stay and go when we're talking about 6-inch trees, or do we want to be talking about more significant trees that are already there that have more than a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year lifespan already? I mean, I think we need to pick our battles to some extent, and I think we need to make the process I'm not standing up for the developers, but I'm saying that I think it needs to be a reasonable ask if we're going to have it be a certified arborist, we're talking about really expensive process here. And if we do that, we're just adding to the cost of these homes or businesses that are going to be added here, which just increase the cost for everybody in the community. And yes, trees are important. I love trees. I have a wooded lot. My neighbors cut down a ton of theirs, and it just pains me to see it happen. But I think, when you look at what's left for development in Fitchburg, I don't think that there are a lot of areas where we would be cutting down a ton of trees to develop. And I think the other question I was going to have is are we talking about the urban service area only, or does this extend to the rural? Because I believe that our rural residential criteria already lays out a tree preservation plan. So, I think, to some extent, I agree with you, Stephen, that I think we're not ready yet to vote on this. I think it needs a little bit more of a review, and I just, I think it's a really good thing to do. I just wonder, what's the shelf life of this report? We had someone come in your May meeting to do a revised plat. Would they have had to have gone through and hired somebody to go through and do this tree inventory all over again? Or do these reports have a shelf life of 10 years? And if they do, then I could see maybe taking it down to 10 inches or 12 inches, because then if the report's good for 10 years, then you can go back in another 10 years when you're redeveloping and see, how many of those trees came into maturity, and do we need to mark some of those now differently? Or I just have a ton of questions on this, and maybe it's because I'm the newbie coming in. But, I agree that I think it could be looked at a little bit more. The other question that I had is, did this get decided to be added as a separate section? Because in all of our other documentation, it's in section B, and it's on the agenda as being in section G. So there's my little housekeeping note. But
I do want to just kind of address what you were saying, because for those of us who were here when they came, we had this whole discussion. So
thank you.
There's only a few of us, though, who were in that meeting. 2, 3? So to be fair, so that we did have that whole discussion. I do appreciate the fact that we don't want to sit here until 3 o'clock debating this. So that's why I'd rather put the homework on someone else. I was going to come into this meeting and point out the fact, because I do a lot of reading on nationwide trends in building, and the reason why home prices, part of the reason, certainly people are getting their piece of the pie, is because of things like this. Same thing with our requirement to have parks built or in lieu of park fees. Those are the things that add to the overall cost of developing new housing, and that, as a nationwide trend, has impacted the U.S. in a pretty negative way. Not saying that this needs to be thrown out because of that, but I shared your concern. The interesting thing, though, is that we're not talking about when we go for PDD. This is only the preliminary plat, and it almost feels now, I'm thinking, a little too weak in my eyes, because when they first came, I thought this is way too burdensome and we're going to impacting way too many developments. And when it's only the preliminary plat, like Deanna had said, we do 1 or 2 of those a year. And to your question, I would assume if we're saying that the ordinance is for preliminary plat, and someone comes back a year or even 5 years later and they do a revision, that's not the preliminary plat. So the way I would read this is that it would only the first time you plat out that land. And I think some of the issues we've had recently with our development, those were plats. Those were existing things that we either rezoned or normally it's a rezone because we put them into PDD because we don't know what else to do with them. That's where we tend to have at least the issues that I've heard about in the last year or two. Not that I also want to have this level of burden on every time we rezone. Certainly not what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But to assuage some of your concerns there, I shared the same thing, but it is only a preliminary plat.
Yeah, so I was involved in this process early on. I was on tree advisory when I first was elected. So we started talking about this in 2020 when I first was elected to council. So that's how far back this conversation goes. And I do think that we should be at or much closer to what the tree advisory recommended. And a lot of it is because where they started was a lot more burdensome than this. So, and they pared it down to make compromise along the way. And it almost would have been better for them to come forward with the first version, and then we could have whittled it down, because now they came forward with what they thought was the most reasonable version of the ordinance, and now it's being even made even less powerful. So, and I understand the frustration of that. And so at minimum, I'd like to add back the tree species, and I actually wrote it up just for clarity. And then I do think we should reduce the diameter. But the reason why I think the 6-inch diameter, so the fact that the preliminary plats aren't very common, and the fact that we are not saying that they have to save every tree. We just want to see where they are on the plat so that they can make an accurate plan. That's what I think the whole point was, is that we don't when it comes forward, like if as a member of the public or as a member of the tree advisory committee, we have no idea if they even think about the trees. Like, is it even on the map when they're thinking about it? Can they, if they could maybe make a little bit of an adjustment, but the trees aren't even on the plat, so they don't know, they can't make those decisions. And that's where the frustration comes in, is because like there's these trees that could be saved, and it wouldn't be hard to do if you just had it on the map. And so that's really the point, is like, just put it on the map and then think about how you can save them. And they're not even like dictating about what they should do, just want them to be there. So in that case, like, I think the compromise that we could make is have someone else other than a certified arborist, like, allow somebody else, just so they can determine the diameter, breast height, and the tree species. Lots of people could do those two things, right? It doesn't have to be a certified arborist to do those two things, but then you can open up the amount of people. Maybe somebody that's less expensive could do that survey, and then at least it's on the plat for consideration. And the 6 inches, like, I don't personally think it's that burdensome, and I would love to hear from somebody about why that's such a burden, especially if we made it so that someone other than a certified arborist could do the survey. So my proposal would be to add back and we'll share my screen if that's okay, Scott. So this is adding back in all the trees that were removed, and then I changed it to 6 inches. And I still think that you could add more teeth to this in the future, but I really think that this is the bare minimum that you could do, is just putting it on the map and then asking them to come up with a plan. I think this is a very reasonable, and I think going back, this basically reverts it back to what the tree advisory committee did. The only change I wouldn't necessarily make would be to stipulate that it's a certified arborist, to give it the flexibility, because that could potentially be an expense, and I can see that being justified in my mind. So I would make a motion to adjust the ordinance as read here on the screen.
I would second that.
Quick question before we do that. Do we need to define what a individual training experience is? I mean, do we know who would be capable of doing that?
When it's an individual, like a landscaper?
Yeah, I don't know. It feels very vague. So, I mean, how does someone prove that they can?
Can we ask a question to Anna?
I think there's a variety of folks that could potentially do this. You know, a landscape architect, potentially. I don't know if a landscaper would be able to do it or not. There was talk of surveyors doing this, but to be honest, like arborists, their billing rate is typically quite a bit less than other professionals that could do this. So it's not inconceivable that someone who is not a certified arborist could do this. But I wonder if you just want to say like certified arborist or equivalent or something like that. So you could leave it open, but it is suggesting like, hey, we really would like, because we want good information. So if someone who isn't a certified arborist can get the information, I don't think that's such a big deal, but it is kind of then hard to define like who that person is.
Yeah, I guess the way it's worded then would work, right? So it's similar to certified arborist. I was just curious if we needed to put any more definition around that. But otherwise, I agree with you, Gabrielle. I think adding these back in and going back to the 6 makes a lot of sense to me.
Shelley.
Well, first, I assume it was the lawyer that came up with that language about similar training and experience, and I don't think that's unusual in laws to have something that ambiguous because it gives you flexibility. But am I correct that somebody testified a 6-inch tree is about 30 years old? Yeah.
So,
microphone, man.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was
I
allowed
sprung
to.
it on her. It wasn't fair.
I got yelled at for speaking out of turn, so I didn't want to come in. For a lot of the oak species mentioned, it's 30 years. It might be actually a little bit older for some of the smaller tree species there, but that's a good ballpark.
Okay, and then picking up on Stephen, I'm sorry, were you going to say?
It's species specific.
Okay, yeah.
And so oak trees grow more slowly, but many of them live much longer. So its value to the environment can be 200 years, 300 years, 400 years in the right setting. So a 12-inch diameter oak down the street from me, the variety, it's almost 90 years old. So I'm glad there's consideration of going to a smaller diameter.
And then just my last question, picking up on what Stephen said, which I think going a direction he didn't want to go, but why was this put only in the preliminary plat? I assume even the tree advisory committee put it there?
Yeah, it was actually largely, it was even before, I believe we had worked with Deanna, the previous city planner we had talked with, that was her recommendation to put it in that position as the place that would be the simplest for Plan Commission and also provide minimal burden. It was a little bit of a, as Gabriella mentioned, a compromise. We first envisioned it in a lot more places, and maybe in a couple of years we'll be back with a different request. But this was kind of the place we thought that would be feasible.
I did just want to mention one more thing. Something I learned at Tree Advisory Committee is that the middle-aged trees are often the thing that we need, because people want to save the old 150-year-old oak, but that's only going to live for 50 more years. Whereas if you save the 40-year-old oak, you're talking about, you know, more than 100 years of a tree. You know what I mean? Those middle-aged trees are the things that get cut down, that those are the ones that could last the longest. So they're almost in some ways like more of a tragedy than the ones that are towards the end of their life, which are just more beautiful, so people don't cut them down. But anyway, I never realized that until we started having those discussions in tree advisory, so I thought it was interesting to note.
Any other comment? Question? So everyone feel comfortable with that language? Okay.
I just was wondering, is this just for the urban service area then, or is this for the entire city?
This would be for all preliminary plats. It's very, very, I can't think of a time when we would do a preliminary plat outside of the urban service area. But there's nothing in code that would prevent it, but it would be highly unusual.
Okay.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking of is like down on Fitchburg and Lacey on the south corner there. We were looking at something, and then I think they withdrew that application. But that, I think, is because isn't Lacey the urban service area, so anything south of Lacey would not be. But yet they were looking at doing, so like that's where, one example, to your point, Carol, that it's technically outside urban service, but that would be a preliminary plat.
If it's a preliminary plat, as the code
Right.
is written,
But that's a perfect example, I think, where you're trying to take this, that I would want to see it in that whole corner there. I would want to see it, even though it's outside the urban service area. We're going to be including it by the process of making it a preliminary plat and platting that out.
I would recommend then that we make sure that this plan that we're referring or approving comports with what's already in the residential criteria. That it all should match, so I just think we need to be careful about that. And we'll make sure that the 54-50s get updated to match what we pass in this ordinance too, correct? The definitions will need to be updated.
Oh, well, I think what the city attorney was thinking that there wouldn't be, her proposal was not to put anything into she was proposing to put everything in chapter 24, if that's what you were meaning.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry. This version incorporates those, so it would not change 54 at all in the city attorney's version. Sorry, Deanna.
Yeah, I think what the city attorney was hoping to do is put put the entire ordinance into one chapter. And I think what Gabriella was proposing here would just do that. So the proposed ordinance as written would not make any changes, and I can't remember if it was chapter 55, is that what 54? Yeah. What you would be working off is just that last page, and everything would go into chapter 24.
And then do we need to amend to be section B, or is section G correct?
What is B in?
For section 1, in the second or third paragraph, I guess, of the ordinance on.
Yeah, I think what you all would be doing is amending section, in the ordinance, section 24-4G.
Is that supposed to be B? That's my question, because.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, because the city attorney wanted it to go as a separate section underneath there.
Thank you.
Yep, good question, thank you, I didn't catch that right away, but she was proposing to put this an entirely, tree preservation plan as an entirely own section G. That's what she
I
proposed.
have another question. So in the ordinance, we are going to keep for the same language or an individual with similar training and experience, we're keeping that? I am asking the question now. So we don't need an arborist.
I don't know, this amendment, the only thing I wrote up was this. I don't know if we want to vote on this and then talk about that separately, or
You already have a first and a second on the floor.
for
To
the
adopt
amendment.
the-
Yeah, for
yes.
this amendment, yeah.
For the overall amendment. Not for, you voiced it, I thought, for the ordinance. To approve the ordinance as written up here.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, because we
Yes.
didn't have an
So we would have to
original
do it
motion.
friendly if we needed to change anything else. And I think your whole point was change this and then let
Okay.
someone else other than.
Thank you. Yes. So I moved it as approved, as edited here, which was seconded by you.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I mean, clarifying I think that language is potentially okay, but if we wanted to change it to a certified.
I am asking question. I want to be sure that we cover all our corners. Okay, so. Any other comments? So you are okay? Okay, so all of you in favor of accepting the amendment that Gabriela put and is on the screen?
Oh, it's the full ordinance, though.
The full?
Yeah, because we didn't make an original motion.
Oh, so
this
we are
is
approving the
motion
ordinance?
was as
Okay.
amended here, yeah.
So all those in favor of approving the ordinance 2023-0-11 with the amendment, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carried. And now we need to do another motion, isn't it, to approve the, no?
That's what I'm saying, is that.
No, okay,
Motion
okay.
for the ordinance with these,
Okay.
changes, rather than
Okay.
doing the amendment, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But that didn't change the certified
Correct.
arborist piece. So
No.
if Plan Commission would like to change that, there would have to be another.
Okay, so are you okay with the language in 4?
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Yes, I think what
Yeah.
what was proposed was the ordinance as written with those changes, meaning that it is now back to 6 inches. It includes the other species that were not included, but it still leaves the option to not be a certified arborist. It could be someone similar.
Yeah.
That's what we all just voted to approve. If that was not what you thought, then speak now or forever hold your peace.
I personally think that's okay, but maybe.
That's what I was
Yeah.
looking at. That's what I agreed with you, because I
Okay.
thought the two most important things were the inch diameter and the
Okay.
species.
And it sounds
I-
like,
yeah.
Okay.
it sounds like a certified arborist might be your cheapest option too, according to Anna, which is great.
I would have just deleted the word certified. Make it an arborist. Could be a Boy Scout.
But here we have a certified or an individual, so it could be both. So, okay, so we leave it like that.
So unless there's any,
Yeah. So, okay, so we don't need to
no?
do anything else. Okay. That's it? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so next we move to, where we are?
Item G.
G.
Yes.
Do we have a motion?
I can maybe do the staff report first.
First,
on
okay,
this one. Okay, so this is Resolution R-12923. This is the 2024 through 2033 Capital Improvement Plan. And so what staff has done is just pull out a couple items, 5 items, just to draw to your attention. Of course, it's a huge document that lays out our capital expenditures over the next 10 years. And so A couple things that I just wanted to bring your attention to was the rent-to-own townhomes. The economic development staff is working to create more affordable housing, and so there's funds in the CIP for that. There are still funds for out into 2029 for the Moraine Edge Park. The CIP includes $2 million for that. Not that there's anything that needs to be done or discussed there. This is a long-term planning program, long-term planning ideas, the Moraine Edge Park. I just wanted to draw that to your attention as we start thinking about the update to the comp plan. The neighborhood hub is also in there. We are moving towards construction for phase 1, hopefully soon. And the CIP would push phase 2 out a little bit farther to 29 and 30. The Northwest Teen Center is there, and staff is working on doing the second phase of the feasibility study. The police facility, the new police facility is also there. That would be located just over here, next door on the next corner. And I would expect, if this project continues to move forward, Plan Commission will see a minor comp plan amendment for the future land use there too. We'll need to make a change for that. And then later this year, I would expect you would see a rezone and an architectural design review. So I just wanted to draw out a couple of items there, and staff does recommend approval.
So, okay, I'm gonna make some comments. So I put together, this is my first CIP. I didn't include any new initiative or project from me. The project that they are in the CIP, most of these projects are coming from previous years, or they are staff recommended. So the police facility, for some of you, and even Carol, you have in the council, it has been the CIP for many, many years. So we are going to build it. And the only thing that I did with this is I reinstate $10 more million because of the preliminary design are coming around $30 million it's going to cost. So that one is going to be around $35 million. I hope we stayed on that price range because it's a lot of money. But I think we can build something very nice with $35 million. So there are plenty of other things in the CIP, but these are more like related to Plan Commission. Yeah, Gabriela.
And if I could just add something, though, I was going to share the schedule for the rest of the CIP process. It is available online, but if anyone wants to, there is a public hearing at the next Common Council meeting on June 27th. There is an amendment process. So we approve this, but then it does go through the amendment process through the council. So it will presumably be amended, it often is. And those amendments are due July 5th. They'll be posted to the city's website on July 17th, public hearing, and the adoption of the amended CIP on July 25th. So I just wanted to call out that schedule. And then also Finance Committee did a special meeting last week. We walked through the CIP. It took about 2.5 hours. So if anyone wants to dig into the details, that would be a good meeting to check out. And I'm happy to, if anyone wants something specific, I can help you find a timestamp on a YouTube video so that you don't have to watch the entire thing if you're really interested in hearing the discussion on a certain thing. Thanks.
And also you can read my letter. So it's explain the process and the priorities. Any other question? No? Okay, so we are ready to vote. All those in favor of, we need
I'll
to
move
vote.
approval. I'll move approval of Resolution R 12923.
Second.
All those in favor of Resolution R-129-23, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. So next.
This Resolution R-102-23 is for accepting a public water main easement in the third edition of Terra Vesa, and then also public road and utility easements in CSM 15003 in Terra Vesa. So this is just a couple items from Public Works to ease the development in Terra Vesa. Staff recommends approval.
I move approval of resolution R1-102-23.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor of resolution R-10223, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. So next one.
And our last item this evening is Resolution R-103-23, and this is accepting public pedestrian bike easements and then public sidewalk easements, releasing a public utility easement and public storm easement in Highfield Reserve. Once again, this is for Public Works and just kind of doing some cleanup. And staff does recommend approval.
I move approval of our resolution R-103-23.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor of resolution R-103-23, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries. So we are at the end. So do we have any staff reports, Diana?
I just wanted to let you all know that we are very fortunate to have a planning intern this year. Her name is Kaylee Schmidt, and she is going to be working with us for the summer and hopefully maybe even a little bit into the fall as she starts her master's degree at UW-Madison in planning. So if you get a chance to see her, please welcome her.
Oh, we can announce the other thing, that we were selected by UW.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. You can do that.
No, you can do
I don't even have any prepared comments on that one.
So there is a class in I don't remember the name of the
Right.
department.
I just
That is a summer class at UW. So one of the projects is a student can participate in some working with the municipality to go through the comprehensive plan, okay? And review the comprehensive plan and add some, I don't remember the new.
Yeah, so the project is called 360 Thinking, 360 Thinking Project, and it's with the University of Madison, and a class is going to take a look at our comprehensive plan in addition to comprehensive plans. I think they're all over the country. And they're going to look at them from the perspective or through the lens of the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And actually, it's kind of cool to have, a different team take a look at our comp plan as we're as we're moving towards reviewing our comp plan. And I'm really hopeful that this will be a great opportunity to work with UW students, but also that we can get some really good feedback on what's working and what we can improve in our comp plan. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Okay. So, any other question for the planning department? No? Okay. So I need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So all those in favor of adjourning the meeting at 9:26, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So thank you, everyone. See you next month.